and welcome to Jtimes, where we uncover the Kabbalah take on Jewish issues and current events. With me here is Kabbalist Dr. Michael Laitman. Hello, Dr. Laitman.
Yeah.
And we want to jump straight into our first topic, which is a big one. And the topic is the soul in general, and specifically the Jewish soul. We know that in Kabbalah there is a lot of mention, a lot of discussion around the whole issue of souls of Israel, souls of the nations of the world, and there are differences between them and there are relations between them. Can you first give us like a general overview of what is a soul according to Kabbalah?
Well, a soul is the general desire that is common, shared between human beings. To begin with, we read in the Torah about one man, the first man created by the Creator, and then that man was divided into many, many pieces, his descendants, so to speak, and so on. So we're talking about a soul. It's a collective desire where we're all interconnected.
Wait. So first, we are debunking the first myth already. A soul is a desire. That's what you're saying?
Then let's actually start. Well, it's quite a problem to see how to explain this. But it's better to explain this not on the level of the spiritual world, but how it relates to the corporeal world. In the corporeal world, if people connect from heart to heart, as one man and one heart, in mutual love, in mutual connection, reciprocity, as love thy friend as thyself, what's created between them, the collective force, when they are in complete mutuality, that force is what we call a soul.
Wow. So it's not a personal thing?
No.
A soul is...
No individual has a soul.
It's a collective thing?
Only my relation to all the others, when I wish to be connected with all the others as equals, in reciprocity, in bestowal, above my ego, to be literally within them, that's called my soul. Meaning it's when I acquire connection with everyone, even without them knowing, even without the people knowing about it. So a Kabbalist, sitting in his room, in his corner, no one knows about him, but if he develops within him the ability to connect to the hearts, the desires of people, and he wants to help them to be also connected that way between themselves, and he does what he can on his part, then it means that he acquires this collective desire, and that's called a soul. Or it's also called Knesset Israel, gathering of Israel, meaning the collective of all the souls of Israel, or even the general collective soul that also includes all souls of the nations of the world to one soul.
So there's a difference between the soul of Israel and the soul of the nations of the world.
Yes.
Right? Okay, but before that, let me see if I understood what you were saying. If I'm not connected to you and to this cameraman over here and to this camera woman over here or to anyone, then I don't have a soul.
No. If you're not connected to anyone, if you don't have an inner desire to connect with other people as one man in one heart, then you don't have a soul. A soul is something common to you and others, a shared desire. Say like there are several individuals and we begin to all unite as one body, just like the cells in our body. When we're all in harmony and in reciprocal work, although each and every one functions according to its own method and mode and system, but we're all yet connected to serve the wholeness of the body. So what we create in the reciprocal work between us, this collective force, this collective field, is what we call a soul.
So basically, according to Kabbalah, the soul is the connection among people.
What's created within that connection.
And what do I have inside?
inside an individual, there's no soul. A soul is what's found outside the individual in his connection with others. That's why it's called love thy friend as thyself. When you emerge out of yourself, then you acquire the vessel called a soul. And in that vessel, in your relation to others, which is a relation of love to others, that's where you begin to feel the upper force, the Creator, because you have identification, sympathy with Him. You want to bestow upon the created beings like Him.
Yes, and it's written that a soul is a part of God above.
Exactly. The soul that you acquire is what's called a part of God above, because in the meantime, you don't start with that connection and relation to all like the Creator. So you only have a part that you gain.
So the amount of connection that I have with other people is the part of God that I have.
Yes. That power of connection that you acquire with others, in which you feel the Creator, according to that level of intensity that you have, that means that you have contact with the Creator. It's called dvekut, adhesion. And the extent of adhesion depends on your soul, the extent of connection that you acquired with others. That's why it's called all Israel are friends.
Because I'm used to thinking of dvekut, this as something that, when I pray from the bottom of my heart to ask for something, or when I'm very meticulous about keeping all the written commandments, and I do everything. Normally we say about such a person, he's really pious. He's in dvekut. I don't know.
That means that you cling to something. The adhesion we're talking about here is adhesion with the Creator, that you discover Him, the collective, shared, general force of love and bestowal. You discover at least an extent of it, to the extent that you acquired that force towards the others.
So the amount of dvekut, is adhesion, with the Creator that I have, is the amount of connection, or the number of connections that I have with other people? Or the amount of, the intensity of connection?
Until you reach full connection with others and with everyone. Then you reach what's called the end of correction.
And then what do I have?
The complete soul. Your complete soul, which is the one shared soul for everyone.
It's the same soul for everyone.
Yes. And it's called Adam.
It's nice, but where is my personal, thing here?
This is yours. This is you. This is you. Each and every one like that acquires the same kind of vessel from his own individual point of view, and that's how everyone has a soul. So that soul, on the one hand, is individual because you attain it on your own, of your own accord, but this circle you acquire, this collective with everyone, is one for all.
So I don't lose my individual self in this collective soul?
No. No, you never lose it. It's like a cell in a body. Although it works for the entire body, serving its entirety, it still contributes itself and feels its own sense of life as well. From yourself, from your point, you attain that soul. That's why it's called from love of the created beings to love of the Creator. To the extent you love the others, to the extent you develop love to others, that's how you eventually reach love for the Creator. And there's no other way. That's the condition and place where your love towards the Creator can appear.
I have to tell you, this is so radically different from what we are taught to think of as souls, that you'll excuse me if I every now and again come back and ask for a redefinition, because
Please, I'm ready.
Really this is a revolutionary thinking here.
It's okay.
Now, you were talking about the souls of Israel and the souls of the nations of the world, and you said there's a difference between them.
Yes, there is a difference.
Can you clarify?
In that collective soul, where, say, there are 7 billion people who have to become completely connected, all of them, in order to become one whole body. All our desires have to become interconnected so that they all discover the upper force. And among them are such desires that have a special inclination to creating that initial connection in the system. And they're called Israel from the word, it's a combination of two words, Yashar and directly to the Creator, or straight to the Creator. It means they have a certain urge, a certain ability, a capacity to come out of themselves and become connected to others. They have a certain quality of bestowal.
Let me see if I'm beginning to get it. They have a tendency to connect.
Yes.
It's easier for them to connect than for other people.
Easier, I wouldn't exactly say that it's easier for them, but they have a greater sensitivity for it.
What do you mean?
It means that I feel that this needs to be done, that connection with others is required, but doing it is not so simple, not for me also, and maybe even more difficult than others.
Why? If you already have the tendency, then why?
No, it's not that I already have a tendency towards it. I have a sense of the urgency and importance of it. But against that, in order to have free choice and to not do it automatically, I have other urges that are egoistic. And these urges stop me, prevent me from doing this. The Jews in this world, they are capable of connecting with more people and integrate in more cultures and develop in science and wisdom and so on. They have a greater tendency towards going out of themselves. But doing these actions properly in order to induce real connection, that is still where the evil inclination lies.
I see. So what exactly is the difference between the souls of Israel and the souls of the nations of the world? We explained about Israel being
the souls of the nations of the world, the inclinations that each and every non-Jew has. It's not an inclination to actually become connected with all the others as one man in one heart, in mutual guarantee and mutual love. It doesn't exist there. They're very individualistic. Whereas in the people of Israel, even if you look at what happened throughout history, there was always some closeness and unity and connection, and it's not because we suffered troubles and threats, but it's because there's a sense of connection that is greater than in other nations. Say the Englishmen, they do have a sense of belonging to each other, but other than that, they don't build something specifically unifying. Everyone lives in their own place and in their own self. In terms of the Jews, it's different. There's also the matter of the synagogues that later the non-Jews learned from us and so on. But to become connected, to be unified, to create all kinds of mutual assistance organizations, which we always had in history. The nations took it from us only in the last, say, 200 years, but we always had that. There was always mutual aid and mutual assistance. Wisdom was appreciated in Israel. The smart disciples were appreciated. From the times we were truly unified before the ruin of the temple, it stayed. It remained within us even during the time of the exile. This mutual assistance, this desire and feeling that we share some common life, we have some shared destiny or goal, something that keeps us together although we're not together. There's some collective foundation that doesn't allow me to be indifferent to what's happening to Jews elsewhere. And only now, in our time, in our era, it somehow becomes truly broken, and it really saddens me.
That's what I wanted to ask, because now, these days, we're not seeing what you're saying. I mean, we're seeing, I don't know, people like Bernie Madoff, who embezzle, Jews' money, all kinds of charity funds and people like that, and his fraudulent acts were against them. But not only that, we can see in Israel, we can see the alienation, we can see phenomena like tycoons. So maybe there is no such thing anymore as the soul of Israel. Maybe there's just, I don't know, souls or no souls at all.
No. That's because in the last 100 years, humanity is in an over-egoistic development, let's say. We were supposed to begin correcting our ego a long time ago and begin to make it, say, round, begin to become connected. Just like we see in the world today, becoming more and more global, and it's forcing us to become like that. It's like a law that descends on us from above and ties us together whether we like it or not. We were supposed to begin connecting towards that law by our own accord, but we didn't. And that's why, unfortunately, we've reached very hard, tough times in the last century, such as the Holocaust and other events. And unfortunately, we still are immersed in the same trouble today, and we have to finally show everyone how to create that connection and teach everyone about it. That's called the light of the nations, to teach everyone about connection, about becoming connected. And this is what subconsciously all the nations expect from us.
They are expecting us to do what?
They are expecting us to show them the example, set the example of how to connect, how to unite, how we can all truly be connected as one system, one mechanism, one connection. And that example will be something that is in order to do in practice, that they will practically begin to connect to us.
You mean all the people or all the Jews? Because all the Jews were already connected before.
The Jews were connected together until 2,000 years ago.
Right.
And that's because they were supposed to attain that spiritual height of connection. Then they fell into the nations of the world in order to deliberately, they were supposed to mingle with the nations of the world so they can prepare them for a connection. Now, when the exile period has ended, we need to begin in Israel and wherever we are physically. There's no, it's not mandatory to specifically go back physically to Israel, but it is mandatory upon us to begin uniting. And we have to do this, and not just to do it for ourselves, but we have the obligation of being a light of the nations. And in fact, this is what the world expects from us. And anti-Semitism really stems from us not introducing this example of unity and connection. If we begin to do that, we will see a drastic change for the better in the relation to us from all the nations.
So let me see if I got this right. First of all, you're saying we have to connect. By saying we have to, and make that an example. By saying we, do you mean we Jews or we people of the world?
The Jews, Yehudi in Hebrew, comes from the word yichud, unity, that we have to create between us. Israel comes from the word yashar el, meaning we have to be directed straight to the Creator, directly to the Creator. We're called meyuchadim, which is what the word Yehudim, Jews, come from, because we are unified. Also the word Ivrim, Hebrews, like Abraham the Hebrew, it comes from the word la'avo, to cross from the egoistic type of relation that we have, the competitive type of relation that we have, to the heart-based connection with each other, to move and cross from this state to that state. The fact that we evolved egoistically so far is because nature pushed us that way, and now nature presents to us a different form of connection that we must have, a global connection.
That's why I'm asking if it should be, I'm sorry, if it should be only the Jews now, or first the Jews and then the rest of the world, or maybe the rest of the world immediately. What are the stages? What are the stages?
No, not immediately. First the Jews, then all nations of the world. This is what the Zohar says, as well as the prophets, Isaiah, and so on. Our sources say that as well.
That's one thing. Another thing I wanted to ask was, you mentioned something about the exile, and then you said, now that the exile is over, and then you mentioned that we don't have to all come back to living in the physical land of Israel. So those living outside of Israel, are they in exile or are they not? Or how does Kabbalah define them?
First of all, let's define exile.
Okay.
Exile means to be outside of connection.
That's exile.
Exactly.
Nothing to do with my address.
No, that's not so important. On the contrary, those Jews living in France or England or the US or Canada or all kinds of places in the world, and there are some Jews everywhere in the world, in every place. Also take into account the 10 tribes, the 10 lost tribes that we don't know where they are.
Yes.
And we're talking about many millions.
But they don't even know that they're Jews.
Right.
So.
But it will appear. It will unfold. Because if we begin connecting between us, creating what's really called Knesset Israel, the gathering of Israel, the assembly of Israel,
assembly.
that force will be felt among those who don't know they're Jews as well. And they'll begin to join us, all those other tribes that we lost before. And these people won't have to run to the country of Israel. On the contrary, the concept called Land of Israel, which is the desire called Israel, it will spread across the world. And even the people who are in America, let's say, in that place, they will show the American people, their neighbors, they'll show them what it means to be unified, connected. Because our role, if it is showing the method of connection to all the nations, this is the reason why we were exiled and dispersed across the world, and that's why where we will do all
that
the
was
actions.
to be my next question. So really the whole purpose of the exile is so that the Jews who had this secret of unity would spread around the world and then start performing little unities in their whatever location. And that way it would, I don't know, project maybe the unity to the rest of the people living there?
Right. Right. Also, that connection that exists between all of us, such a connection that is an inner connection that now many scientific articles are now showing, scientists are seeing that we are internally connected in many ways, in ways that are not visibly seen and apparent to us, but also because we will show that method of connection openly. And this is our role, and we have to do it as soon as possible. And I hope that people will listen to this and see how this really promises the better future we need, because the world will collapse if we don't begin to connect as this global integral crisis is now showing us.
So, the topic of our next show, you talked about the collapse, will be the correction of the world, Tikkun Olam, and we're going to have to stop right here, and we'll continue from where we left off in our next show. So first of all, thank you very much for coming, Dr. Laitman, and we'll see you on our next show.